Let's talk about players who really burnt into our memories, put up big numbers in the fantasy playoffs at the second half of the season after the trade deadline. Does it mean anything? Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm so fresh and so clean. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. So, this is a show again that I have pre-recorded. I'm recording this on the 3rd of July. It is going out about 2 weeks after that. The data that I present here doesn't change. Maybe some of the analysis could slightly change depending on what happens. And there are a couple of players we're going to talk about in today's show that currently sit as restricted free agents. I just expect they're back on their teams, but I don't know. But what we're more trying to highlight is how big things can change from first half to second half. And again, I want everybody to understand that as a general rule, you put skepticism onto performances in March and April, which is the majority of the second half. So we're doing trade deadline as the cutoff. So there is some time in February. Remember, the trade deadline was the 8th of February. So obviously there's 20 more days of February, but there are, I think, 7 or 8 days in the middle of that where it's the All-Star break, so nobody's playing. And you have this very weird sort of period of time leading up to the All-Star break where players and teams are being a little bit cautious about things. And then you've got that period after the All-Star break, which is relatively serious in terms of the way that teams are approaching things. But then March and April, the numbers are all out of whack for numerous reasons. It could be that the team that you're playing for is very high up in the standings. Therefore, when you're high up in the standings, I might as well just put the little sheet across here so we can see it on National Gummy Worm Day. I might have already done that. You might be playing on a good team. You might be playing on Boston or Cleveland or Oklahoma City. So we can pull minutes back a little bit. We can rest guys at certain times. We can make sure we preserve them for the playoffs. You might be on a really bad team and players ahead of you on the depth chart, or even 2 players ahead of you on the depth chart, have been injured, traded away, fake injured, whatever's happened. And they're not there. Or their minutes have been reduced and your minutes have been risen, or it's a back and forth scenario. That happens too. You might say, but Josh, what about the teams that are fighting for playoff seeding in the 4 through 10 range? They're trying to get into the play-in. Those teams are being serious, right? Well, yeah, they are. In terms of their lineups are more consistent. They're trying to win these games, and the other teams are more about either trying to accumulate losses for lottery balls or preserving their players, or sometimes there's a mix of both. But the teams in the middle, they still have to play those other teams. They have to play the bad teams, meaning that it is easier to put up those numbers against the bad teams. They have to play the good teams who aren't taking it as seriously, who aren't game planning as much, who are deciding they're going to rest guys. So yeah, if there's a game between the team that's 8th and 9th, the results from that game, they're pretty useful, right? In terms of looking at the stats and how does this make sense? But there are so many teams that are out of it, that are shutting guys down. There are so many teams that are in more preservation mode and have got buffers, and they're standing there, do we care if we're the 5 or the 6 seed? Not really. We want to make sure this guy's healthy. So as a general rule, and the studies have been done on this a lot, is that you get more correlation by looking at season-long numbers through to the next season versus what was the last thing you saw, either post-All-Star break or post-trade deadline, especially for younger guys, but you're correlating that into the next season. But of course, there are individual circumstances to all of these. So I'm going to go through the top 14 risers, excluding 2 names, Moses Brown and Brandon Williams, guys who didn't play at all. Brown came in and played like a small little stint before his contract expired, and Brandon Williams put up really good numbers. And they had the 2 biggest rises out of anybody from pre-deadline to post-deadline. But Brown doesn't even have a team, and Williams is in a completely different scenario that it doesn't really mean that much. I didn't want to focus too much on him. Let's talk about the biggest riser after that, though. It was Quentin Grimes. Now, he is one of the players that I don't know where he's going to play, because he's currently a restricted free agent. I imagine he's back in Philadelphia. But what I also imagine is that the stuff that Grimes did in that second half of the season, and you can see that, we'll see it in a second, it comes up on the screen, how well he actually produced in the second half of the season was ridiculous. The numbers that he put up, he averaged 22 points a game with 4.5 assists, 3 threes. He had 1.5 steals. He played 34 minutes. He was the 46th ranked player. He was traded from Dallas to Philadelphia. So that's all Philadelphia, the 46th ranked player. But of course, Paul George missed a lot of that time. Tyrese Maxey missed a lot of that time. Joel Embiid missed most of that time. Kelly Oubre missed chunks of that time. So all of this stuff that's happened with Grimes, it's a big step forward. We know how good he was. I think we all know this. But this has just got no reality. He played on a terrible team. They played a lot of bad teams. His role was completely inflated. So it was great to see that he was able to do it. But the reality of that is it's just not a thing that's going to keep going. We could also say the same thing about the next guy, Kyle Filipowski, who I do like. I like him as a fantasy player. I like him as a real-life player to a degree. But Filipowski, in the second half of the season, he only played 25 minutes a night. It's not like he started playing 33, but he wasn't really even getting those minutes to begin with. What we saw was a big usage bump. He averaged 14 and 8 with 2.1 assists. He shot 51 from the field. They're pretty good numbers. He rose from nowhere, the 288th ranked player, to 109th. But of course, as things currently sit, the Jazz's front court is weird. There's Kessler, there's Nurkic, there's Markkanen, there's Bailey, there's Collins, there's the return of Taylor Hendricks. Can we even expect, Filipowski got 21 minutes for the entirety of the season. Can we expect that he gets those 25 that he got post-deadline? Don't think so. Why would we expect that? I mean, he could, but also, even if he did get those minutes, will he be playing without other usage guys the way that last season? Now, Sexton's gone, obviously, and Clarkson's gone, and things are a little bit different, but it's another one of those ones where we use Kyle Filipowski, we liked what he did, but is there a carryover there? Not really. Same with Stephon Castle, and I know that you will call me a Stephon Castle hater, that's okay. I understand that. I don't value him as highly as others. He was pretty good down the stretch. There's no debating that. He played, he still only played 28 minutes a night, which is, still not much for the guy that won Rookie of the Year. He averaged 18, 5, and 5, or close enough to 5 and 5. He had 1 steal a game. He shot 45 and 73, including under 30% from 3, so still bad numbers. He was the 120th ranked player in that post-trade deadline stretch. And now he has to deal with Victor Wembanyama, who played 5 games in that period. He's got to play with De'Aaron Fox. He played 8 or 10 or something. He's got to play with Dylan Harper. Is he going to start? Is he going to even exceed those 28 minutes? I expect that he improves as a shooter, but the usage that he had down the stretch there, which was 29%, I'll give you the real hot tip now, 0 shot. No way that is happening. It's just not going to happen. So even with 29 usage, he was 120th. He will get drafted highly. He'll get drafted in that 80s, I think. And I think it's going to be a disaster pick. But, he was one of the biggest rises from 275th to 120th. And it is worthy of us talking about it. I'll just quickly mention Kawhi Leonard because we know that he didn't start his season until January. We know that he did start. He played a back-to-back in the second half of the season. Kawhi is a very different story to these other guys because Kawhi is Kawhi. So again, that's why context is always important. Because Kawhi was the 20th ranked player after the All-Star break, or after the trade deadline. He averaged 24, 6, and 3.5 with 2 steals, shooting 51 and 83 in 36 minutes. He was just Kawhi. Before that, he wasn't. He was 135th ranked player. Now, it's very possible that Kawhi's a top 15 player, top 10 player per game for next season. I won't be drafting him anywhere inside the top 3 rounds because I do not trust the knee at all. I don't trust him getting through the season. And I hope he does, but I don't trust it. But we just saw him being back to being Kawhi. Not fully back to being Kawhi, because back to being Kawhi is a top 8 player, top 7 player. He was 20th. But he was great in that period. Kyshawn George for the Washington Wizards had some moments early in the season, then they did trade away Kyle Kuzma, and then they had situations where Middleton came in and didn't play, and Marcus Smart was there and didn't play, and Marvin Bagley was gone. And they just started giving more minutes to Kyshawn George. And, as you'd expect, a rookie on a bad team was able to jump up. He averaged only 10.5 points, but 2 threes, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, and 1.3 steals. And he shot really poorly. I expect that his shooting does go up. But I am also not convinced that he's going to be a 28-minute-a-night player from the leap. He had 18% usage. He was the 118th ranked player. He jumped over 100 spots. But Alex Sarr is going to be also in year 2. We know that they drafted Trey Johnson. CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton are there. So is Marcus Smart at the time of me recording this. There is, versus like Quentin Grimes and and Steph Castle, it is possible that George maintains 28 minutes a night, improves his shooting, and is actually better than 118th. But there are other names in the mix. There are other players there now that will have an impact on George full season. I still think you should be looking at him as a starter and probably playing more minutes in this. So it's context. Does he have a shot of maintaining those numbers but actually improving? Sure. But we still have to look at that team was very up and down. They were, and the other part of it, they were also limiting his minutes and games played. So he actually could have had a better post-deadline run, but he didn't get sort of let go and unleashed to that degree. So he sort of falls into a different pool versus some of the other guys. Got some more guys we're going to come back and talk about, but Kyshawn George, obviously one of the bigger rises there. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. When summer sports in full swing, it might be baseball, might be NASCAR, might be soccer, might be golf, might be WNBA. It's all in full swing at the moment. So FanDuel is the best way to make all of that action more exciting. You can follow the action, well, you already are. But now you've got your knowledge that you put to the test. You put it there on same-game parlays, on live bets, on spreads, on totals. All of that stuff is there on FanDuel. And it is a great way to track your favorite matchups. And again, just show what you're able to do. You might want to be putting on parlays of who's going to hit a home run. Yeah, not the greatest idea, but you can do it. You do live same-game betting on WNBA games. And check the spread and look at the totals and put the futures on for the upcoming NBA season. It's all there on FanDuel. And if you are a new customer to FanDuel, well, you can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's go through some more of these players who did take some big steps forward in the second half of the season. Aaron Gordon's an interesting one because I think your immediate reaction would be, yeah, but he didn't really play that much post-trade deadline. And I understand that thinking, but it's not really true. He did have multiple calf injuries, obviously, then a hamstring injury in the playoffs, and that's a real concern. But somehow Aaron Gordon was able to put together an unbelievable run post-trade deadline. He played 22 games. He only played 30 minutes a night. But it's also one of these things, and I didn't even mention this at the start, and I should have, is that these games, we're talking like 30 games, 34 games, whatever it is, post-trade deadline that happens. All right? It's a third of a season. It's not half a season, it's a third of a season. Shooting numbers in that sample can be 10 percentage points more than expectation, 15 sometimes. And we know how big influence those things are. So while Aaron Gordon was 81st post-deadline, he was 180th pre-deadline. How? He shot 47% from three. He went 55 from the field, 82 from the line. He averaged 18, 5, and 3.5. Still no steals and blocks, but basically just every shot went in. Like he just hit every three. He hit his twos, and he now hits free throws, apparently. So for the season, like his numbers are great. 44% overall, 53%. This is basically, he played 51 games total, so it's a little bit less than half of his overall season that it enabled him to put up these good numbers. But I'm not going to believe that Aaron Gordon is this level of shooter. Remember, so we're putting this in like the Nuggets. They were fighting for seeding, obviously, but they played bad. Yeah, they played bad teams. They played teams resting guys also. So there's those two factors. Plus, Aaron Gordon shot what you could say was maybe 15 percentage points better than usual from three. Even if you count him as a 38% shooter, he was still like 8-9 percentage points higher. And they're just numbers that aren't realistic for him to hold. And when that comes down, your field goals come down, your scoring comes down, your three-pointers come down. Now, he could play more minutes easily. But there are things there, again, that we just have to look at that and go, if you had Aaron Gordon, you would have loved what he was doing. And if you just do simple searches and filters to check what happened post-trade deadline, you'll look at the numbers and go, unbelievable. And you get excited. And then we get into a different sort of player, Ausar Thompson. Because at the beginning of the season for Ausar Thompson, he was on this minutes restriction due to his blood clot. And then he was on a minutes restriction in the second half of the season due to JB Bickerstaff, who kept telling us he was on a minutes restriction due to the blood clots, but it wasn't. He was on a minutes restriction because he didn't want to play, right? And I've been on that rant a million times. Ausar was someone who did struggle early in the season, couldn't really find his rhythm, took a while for him to get back and play. He played 30 games post-deadline and played only 25 minutes a game. But he was the 100th ranked player in that time, up from 193rd. He averaged 12 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. with a block and 1.7 steals, and shot 56 from the field, including 24 from 3. He was bad on his free throws. We could look at these numbers from Thompson, and with Detroit losing Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway, yeah, there are opportunities there for other players, although Jaden Ivey will return, Tobias Harris is still there. But you would expect that Thompson will be locked in as a starter, I guess, or it could be Duncan Robinson. I would guess that he would start, but remember, the only times he really ramped up were games that Tobias Harris was out. But still, I think it's a fair bet to suggest that we get more even than the 25 minutes night he played post-trade deadline. But someone could easily make the argument the other way around, that the way that he was weirdly limited in the playoffs might suggest otherwise. So again, we can look at this and look at the trajectory of Ausar and go, okay, well, that's great. We've got some good stuff coming. But maybe not. It is possible that he stays as a 25-minute guy and we get Holland, we get Robinson, we get Ivy, we get Harris, all cutting into that. I have to mention Najee Marshall, because he was a great option down the stretch when the Mavs had no Kyrie Irving, no Anthony Davis, no Derek Lively, no Daniel Gafford. And now they're going to have Cooper Flagg and Anthony Davis. They still won't have Kyrie, but they've got D'Angelo Russell. Marshall's going to come off the bench without any question. He played point guard down the stretch, and he was a useful player for big periods of time. But of course, like this is the ultimate and the easy to recognize one that makes it, who cares? He played 32 minutes a night post-trade deadline. He was the 94th ranked player. He was 187th before that. We wouldn't even consider him in a 14-team league. It's the clearest example there of taking advantage of a team completely chucked up in the air due to many injuries, and him filling a role that he has no shot of filling as we move forward. I found it interesting that Day'Ron Sharpe is on this list. Now, Sharpe was a restricted free agent. They took away his qualifying offer, but then they re-signed him. Now, I am recording this on July the 3rd, so I don't know if Brooklyn's made any moves. Obviously, they drafted Danny Wolf. I don't know if Nick Claxton's still there, or is Sharpe just going to still be the backup. He did this, though, playing only 19 minutes a game in 21 games. He averaged 8 and 7 with 1.2 blocks on 54%, 73 from the line. These aren't spectacular numbers. But his beginning of the season was so poor that he was able to be really useful in that second half of the season. We all know that if Day'Ron Sharpe found a 26-minute-a-night role, we'd be drafting him probably in round 6. But, again, we talk about the production, because it's not only his minutes. He played 19. That's not a huge amount. But it's the level of competition from his teammates, or their level of play, plus the level of competition of the opponents, where they go, we're playing Brooklyn. Like, are we actually trying here? Lots more garbage time in those games enable permanent rates to jump up quite a bit as well. Faster pace at times too. So, like, he was good. He was 108th in 19 minutes. So you might be tempted to go, well, he's the backup again. He'll play 19 minutes. Should I just draft him? I would like to see that happen, not in the clown portion of the season, which is exactly when it did happen. Who else have we got here? We've got probably the guy that you're way into here, and I think I'm probably going to put him on the thumbnail, and that's Josh Giddey. Because Giddey was, out of all of these players we're talking about here, the guy that ranked the highest in the post-trade deadline period. He was 10th post-trade deadline. He was undoubtedly fantastic. Now, like Quentin Grimes, me recording this right now, he's currently a restricted free agent, and there's been no real movement. Are the Bulls going to sign him? What's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. He was 85th before the trade deadline. He was 10th after it. So what changed? The obvious thing, the surface thing is, you'll say Zach LaVine was traded. 100% true. Zach LaVine was traded, and that did help Josh Giddey. What else happened? Vooch was injured for a period. Lonzo Ball was out and barely played at all. In fact, let's just check how much Lonzo did play. Lonzo played 5 games after the trade deadline. Vooch played 22, so about 2/3 of the games. Ayo played 5 games post-trade deadline. You obviously had no Zach LaVine there as well. And Giddey was able to just run the show. And when Josh Giddey runs the show, he will put up numbers. There is really no doubt about that. He will put up numbers. He will put up triple-doubles. He played 33 minutes a night. The early part of the season, he was getting benched in fourth quarters because of his lack of defense in the shooting. And much like when we go back to what Aaron Gordon did, there's just stuff that he did that's not just Zach LaVine was gone. And that is why I have the skepticism about Giddey. His usage was at 24. It is entirely possible that Giddey can hold a 24 usage all season. So 24 usage, right? It's not sky high. His season usage was 22.7. It's not sky high. So he didn't get this huge usage bump, which would be something we could look at and say, well, that'll hold. Because it'll be him and Kobe White with no Lonzo, the addition of Isaac Okoro and Noah Essengay, no Levine. Like, the usage can hold. It might even push to 25. But that's not what happened. That's not the answer, right? That's not why he was able to be as good as he was. And you know what's coming. He shot 45% on threes. Now, Josh Giddey is an improved three-point shooter. But what's your expectation? 37%? 38%? So let's just drop that all the way down, right? Let's drop that 7 percentage points down. You lose points, you lose threes, you lose field goal percentage. His 2-point numbers were relatively steady, 51%. That's okay. He also blocked a shot a game, which, I don't know about you. I don't really look at Josh Giddey as being this elite level shot blocker. Do I think that Josh Giddey is a very strong passer? Obviously, yes. Like, he is a very, very good passer. Like, there's no question about that. But this man blocked 0.6, 0.6, 0.4, 0.4 blocks in his 4 seasons. At post-trade deadline, he averaged a block. It's a big jump. It's like a 67% increase. The rebounds also went through the roof. He averaged 9.9 in that 33 minutes, which is a higher rebound rate. Now, will he continue to do that? Levine wasn't a rebound guy. Will the rebound rate hold? Was Vooch being there 2/3 of the time a factor? I don't know. There's just a lot about what Giddey did that, yes, they've cleared the decks a little bit, so his minutes will be fine. His minutes will be up. His usage will be up. He will be better than he was overall for the season. But unless you're buying a 45% shooting run plus 10 rebounds and a block, he's not this player. And the Bulls, a clear idiot franchise, they were playing against a bunch of teams that did not care. And yeah, you can easily cherry pick games where Giddey played against good teams. Against teams that were trying to put up good numbers. It's easy to do that. But we're talking about the totality. Because you can have good and bad games. And if you're playing the majority of your games against teams that aren't trying, right, they're not putting their full effort into it, your stats almost certainly will be inflated. So I'm not hating on Giddey. I'm not going to tell you he's not draftable. I'm not going to tell you any of those things. All I'm going to tell you is that those numbers, the time of the year that they happened, the way that they happened, the shooting that led to these numbers is not going to hold. It's not real and it's not going to stick at those levels. Today's episode is brought to you by Hungry Root. Planning for meals and grocery shopping can be overwhelming. Busy schedules, picky eaters, trying to eat healthy. It's a lot of stuff that you got to do, and that's why Hungry Root is going to be something that you love. It takes the stress out of planning by filling your cart with personalized groceries and meal options based on what you like and what you need. They've got their smart cart technology to recommend groceries, recipes, and even supplements that are tailored to your preferences. You might be dairy-free or gluten-free, looking at your gut health, or just trying to eat better. Hungry Root has got you covered. One of the best things is you don't waste time at the grocery store trying to find all the stuff and go, what do I need here? How do I plan this out? Hungry Root does all that for you. It's a great way to stick to your nutritional goals as well. So take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA. That is hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. Just like the NWO. Okay, so who else is on my list here of improvers? Brandon Podziemski. We were gaslit. We weren't, because we knew it wasn't true. But the Warriors were telling us he was going to take 10 threes a game. It was just literally never going to happen. He lost his starting spot. In the end, he got it back in the second half of the season after the Jimmy Butler trade, and he was really strong. It is an important time for Podziemski. It's year 3 coming up. I would imagine that he comes in alongside Steph and Jimmy and Draymond as starters. Had no resolution at this point to the John Kuminga news, so I don't know. But also remember, in this period of time, John Kuminga was out for most of this part with the Warriors. Now, he might still be out. He might not be on the Warriors next season at all. But they also might bring him back, or he might be signed and traded. And you got a full season of Butler. But again, most of this stuff that Podziemski did was with Butler there. He went from 186 to 112, so he was fine. He averaged in this time frame 15 points in 30 minutes with 2.5 threes. He shot 41% from 3, so there's scope for that to pull back. He averaged 4 assists and 6 rebounds. Like, they're pretty good numbers. They're not elite numbers. Podziemski, again, and this is a scenario where we're looking at the numbers post-deadline where some things can still go wrong from there, and he still wasn't awesome. So while we did use him, and he was better, there's no guarantee that that's something that's able to hold all the way through. We're going to talk about one of his teammates in a sec as well. Let's go up to Toronto. Immanuel Quickley was someone that was incredibly disappointing all season. Multiple injuries early on, so when he missed time, he had rust when he came back, he had minutes restrictions, he struggled, and then down the end, we got the Toronto Raptors in and out plan, which you sit one game, you play the next one. He played 21 of the games post-trade deadline. He averaged, though, in just 29 minutes in that time, we saw the improvements come. Now, he was 109th overall in category leagues and 93rd in points leagues. Overall, I don't think the season was a complete disaster, but he was 90th post-trade deadline in 29 minutes. Now, the Raptors were a team that definitely fudged everything they were doing. They were trying to lose as deliberately as possible, and they played a million bad teams. So they couldn't even lose as much as they wanted to because they somehow had the schedule where they played every bad team, and they just couldn't lose. Quickley averaged 18, 4, and 6. He shot 38 from 3. He hit 3 threes a game. He had 25 usage. Now, it's going to be an adjustment with Brandon Ingram coming in and seeing how that all works, but what Quickley did there in 29 minutes, it's not crazy. Like, why can't he play 33 minutes next season and do that with extra 5-6 minutes on top of it and be a top 60 guy? I think it's possible. Ingram will be an issue for sure. But this is one of those ones where we have some skepticism, but some of the numbers are not crazy. The assist rate maybe falls, the usage maybe falls, but the shooting numbers and stuff, they're all about normal. So again, it's context dependent. He was bad early on. Why? Injuries, limited minutes, struggled with his shot. Second half was flying, but a lot of weird context, and now the team looks a little bit different as well. Paolo Banchero started the season really well. First 4 or 5 games were great. Strained his oblique, out for a long time, came back and had some really, really bad moments. But his other portion of the season, post-trade deadline, actually pretty good. And I don't know that many people really recognize that. 28, 8, and 4.5. Now, he's not a big steals and blocks guy, 0.8 steals and 0.6 blocks. But he also had a true shooting in this time of 58%, which is above league average. And for using my Durant category league rankings, he was the 25th ranked player. He was 87th before the trade deadline. So it was a gigantic improvement. And again, I look at these numbers and go, all right, he shot 47 from the field, 78 from the line, and 34 from 3. He didn't have big steal and block numbers. He 35 minutes a game. He had 34 usage, which I guess is a risk of coming down with Desmond Bane there, but Paolo's the man. What it shows, I think, with Paolo, and we do want to see him be able to do it over the course of the season, that it shows that he can do it. It shows that he can be at least a third-round guy in category leagues and a top 10 player in points leagues. He can do it. Whether he will do it with Bane there, and whether that level of free throw shooting improvement, because it's his post-deadline is 5.5 percentage points higher on his free throws, and a couple of percentage points higher on his field goals overall. Yeah, can he do it? I'm not. That's what we're going to find out. I don't know. And we've got to see how the impact there is of Bane. But it was a 28-game sample. Again, we understand. A lot of teams were bad. The Magic were pushing and fighting. So it wasn't them that was adjusting their lineups. It's the quality of their opponents. But he showed that, yeah, he can do it. And it's not like he went and shot 47% Aaron Gordon style or 44% Josh Giddey style or doubled his block rate. Didn't do any of those things. He just sort of was there, and the free throws is the question mark, isn't it? Because that changed what he did. He went from 73 to 78. I hope he can hold. I don't believe it, but it did show that it is possible. The last name is, like I said, Brandon Podziemski's teammate, Draymond Green. I don't know that you would think that how good Draymond was down the stretch when Jimmy Butler arrived from a fantasy point of view, because the numbers don't pop. He played 31 minutes a game. That's not that high. He played in 32 games. He had 16 usage. He averaged 10, 6, and 6. But what he did do is he averaged 1.9 steals and 1 block a game. He shot 44 from the field and 76 from the line and 30% from 3, so nothing spectacular there. In fact, some of his shooting numbers were worse. But he went from 108th to 51st, largely because he added an extra half a steal per game. Now, steals are incredibly volatile. So while that is great from Draymond, it showed that playing alongside Jimmy doesn't new to him completely. He still averaged 5.8 assists during that time in 30 minutes a game. So it doesn't kill him. But realistically, the difference here is that the steals just added 33% onto his steals. Because the other stuff, like, what do you average for the year? 9, 6, and 5.5, and then post-deadline you average 10, 6, and 5.8. The difference is like a half a steal extra. And that's sort of what bumped him up. Again, understanding the quality of competition in that time of the year is a joke. But he still put up the numbers. What I do want to do now is just give you 8 more names, just the next grouping of the biggest risers, just to finish off the list. We've got a couple here from Portland. One of them is Day'Ron Sharpe. Again, Simons missed some time down the stretch. Ayton was out. Jeremy Grant, of course, was out. Ides of March. 153rd to 101st. Their team remains weird because now Drew Holiday is there, even though Simons and Ayton are gone, so we'll see what happens. Alex Sarr, he got the second half rookie improvement, 162 to 110. I think there is way more coming. DiVincenzo, who really struggled early on, had the toe injury, then came back and was 151st up to 99th. The Wolves may make some moves. I think there is a decent chance DiVincenzo begins the season as a starter, but also that wasn't really what they did in the playoffs all the way through. But they have lost Alexander Walker now, so there is 3-4 extra minutes maybe, unless Rob Dillingham steps up. And then Scottie Pippen was 170th into 119th as he starting alongside Ja Morant. Now remember, Desmond Bane is gone, but they did bring in Ty Jerome. And knowing Memphis, you're going to have a million more injury reports come through. We've already got a Jaren Jackson one and a Zach Edey one. Pippen will be lower ceiling, I think, just because of the addition of Jerome, even though, and obviously Cedric Coward. So there's no guarantee that he comes in and starts because KCP is also there. So we loved what Scottie Pippen did. We were impressed, but 119th is not blowing us away. He did it in 22 minutes, so that is great. But what is his minutes now? 24? Maybe. It's not even guaranteed to be there. Denny Avdia, one of the big rises, 50-spot jump from 88th to 38th. He was really good down the stretch. Again, similar stuff. We saw the team without Ayton. We saw the team without Grant. This team is not going to have Ayton. I don't know if they have Grant. I don't know what their lineups are going to be. Drew Holiday is there currently as I'm recording this. Avdia was strong. He saw his usage rise to 26 during that time. He averaged 21, 9, and 5. The 5 assists is intriguing. But if Scoot starts, and I don't know whether he will Scoot run the offense more or will Denny run it? Did Denny have some shooting luck during that time? Yeah, he shot 41% on his threes. I don't know that I buy him as being that, when at times he's been a 34% shooter. So, yeah, there is some risk of that not holding. The usage could drop, the assists could drop, 3-point shooting could drop. Even the minutes at 32, I expect they stay around there, but there's also no guarantee with this weird Portland team. And Onyeka Okongwu, we know the story. He went from 93rd to 45th. He was great, and now Porzingis is there. I think Porzingis limits his ceiling, but I don't think it completely eliminates him. It doesn't make him strictly a backup. They will play together. And I think he still gets at least 26 or 27 minutes. Tobias Harris struggled early on, and then was 71st post-trade deadline, which is bang where you want him to be. Largely just from shooting improvement. Jaden Ivey being out helped a little bit. It wasn't just all that, though. And Harris will be a guy you want to pick probably around 100, 110, I'm guessing, this season. I probably won't go as high as I did last year. And the other name there is Kobe White. All very similar stuff to Josh Giddey, 82nd into 39th, with the absences of Dosunmu, the absences of Ball, the absences of Levine, the half absence of Vooch. He played 34 minutes. He averaged 23 points. He had a 25 usage. But unlike Giddey, he didn't shoot well above his numbers. He was 36% from 3, 48 from the field, which is probably a little high, including 57 from 2, so maybe that comes down. But White was really strong. Now, would I look at him as a top 40 guy? No. Again, all these sort of guys where you've got some of those doubts, you might want to just drop 20, 30 spots off them, maybe 2 rounds, and then reevaluate from there. I think that's a decent way of looking at that. I hope that information, just highlighting a bunch of guys, which we went through about 22 guys as the biggest risers, some of them rising, or the lowest riser there was 40 spots in the rankings from pre to post trade deadline, and illustrating again the reasons behind why it happens, and there's multitudes of them. Your team sits guys down, your opponents sit guys down, your opponents don't take it as seriously because they're locked in at the top or the bottom, or you have unreasonably high rate jumps in blocks or assists. There's a player that's out that's giving you a different role, or your shooting just goes through the roof. And that stuff isn't always replicable. Hit subscribe on the video, guys. You'll see more stuff coming in this next week or two. I'll be back live in about 10 days or so. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.